Maya Thompson walked into the entrance hall of a small branch of Thompson Union Bank, a financial institution she had founded many years ago. It was late in the day, and the golden light from the setting sun stretched long shadows across the smooth tile floor. The glass doors opened with a quiet rush of air as Maya stepped inside, her sneakers making soft contact with the ground. She pulled her light sweater a bit closer around her shoulders. This wasn't an official visit. No urgent meetings. No high-stakes negotiations. Just a regular withdrawal from her personal savings. The kind of thing anyone might do on a random weekday. But this was her bank. Her legacy. Maya had built Thompson Union Bank from nothing, driven by the belief that true service meant fairness, transparency, and treating every person with dignity. She had navigated the company through economic downturns, corporate hurdles, and endless regulations. Still, she never lost sight of why she started it. This branch was close to her heart. She'd chosen the spot personally, watched it open its doors, and stood proudly at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Today, though, she wasn't. Wearing a business suit, no heels, no makeup, no one would know she was the founder. And that's how she wanted it. Just a woman in sneakers and a cozy cardigan, checking in on the place she built. Not as a boss, but as a customer. She walked to the counter, calm and composed. No name-dropping, no expectations. Only a quiet hope that her institution still practiced what it preached. The young clerk behind the desk didn't greet her. A brief glance, then back to the glowing screen. Maya cleared her throat. "Hi, I'd like to make a withdrawal," she said softly. The teller, her name tag read Eliza Warren, didn't even look up. She simply pushed a clipboard across the counter. "Fill this out," she muttered, still fixated on the screen. The form was simple. Name, account number, amount. Maya scribbled in $5,000, not a fortune, but enough to require ID. She slid the paper and her card across the desk. And then, she saw something change. Eliza paused. Her eyes darted between the form, Maya's ID, and the screen. Then, without a word, she stood up. "Just a moment," she said, her tone uncertain. She took Maya's ID and vanished behind a frosted glass door leading to the back office. Maya stood quietly. Her fingers tapped a soft rhythm on the marble countertop. She had hoped for respect, not privilege, but this felt like something else entirely. Frase di coinvolgimento inserita in modo naturale all'inizio. Have you ever experienced something like this? Let us know in the comments and where you're watching from. A couple of minutes later, Eliza returned, but she wasn't alone. Behind her came Marcus Bennett, the branch director. "Good afternoon, Ms. Thompson," he said, offering a forced smile. He gave her a quick glance, then turned his eyes to the form on the counter. "I understand you're requesting a withdrawal." Maya gave a simple nod. "Yes, $5,000 from my savings." Marcus paused. "Would you mind if I checked your ID again?" A flicker of annoyance passed through Maya. "I already handed it to Eliza," she replied, her voice calm but assertive. Marcus didn't respond. He lifted the ID toward the light, turning it slowly as if searching for flaws, as if the document might be forged. Maya had banked with Thompson Union for over a decade. This wasn't a routine verification. It felt like something else. "What's your line of work, Ms. Thompson?" Marcus asked, his tone careful. Maya clenched her jaw. "I run a financial institution," she said, her words clipped. He nodded vaguely, exchanging a glance with Eliza. "Is this a personal account or related to your business?" Her patience frayed. "It's written on the form," she answered, her voice now carrying a cold edge. Marcus continued inspecting the ID, as if searching for invisible flaws, never once meeting her eyes. And that's when Maya understood. This wasn't about protocol. This wasn't about bank policy. It was about what they assumed, about who they saw, or rather, who they didn't want to see. His fingers hovered over her name, as if waiting for the truth to change. The once busy lobby had gone strangely quiet. That quietness where you feel every second stretch. Maya stayed composed, her face unreadable. But inside, her frustration churned. Eliza stood rigid beside them, eyes darting between her manager and Maya. She said nothing. The air felt thick. The tension had weight. Maya had dealt with disbelief before, moments when people questioned her role, her authority, her success. But not like this. Not here. Not in the very building she had brought into existence. Marcus finally spoke again, his face unreadable. "Miss Thompson, I'll need to ask you a few more questions before we move forward." His voice was smooth, but something about it sent a shiver down her spine. Then came the question that made everything crystal clear. "Just to confirm," he said, "this is your first time banking with us?" Maya's stomach turned. This wasn't a new location. She had chosen this address, designed the layout, interviewed the staff, cut the ribbon on opening day. That question wasn't about a withdrawal. It was about identity. It was about doubt. It was about being seen or erased. "I've been banking here since the day this branch opened," Maya said, her tone firm and unwavering. Marcus didn't reply right away. He glanced at Eliza, then turned back toward Maya, as if weighing every word she had spoken. His silence wasn't neutral. It was calculating, and when he finally opened his mouth again, the question confirmed everything Maya had feared. "And you said the amount is $5,000? He asked slowly, as if repeating it gave the figure some deeper meaning. "What do you do for a living, Miss Thompson?" The question hit her with a jolt. Why did it matter? Hadn't she already explained herself? What more did he need? She stared at him, her voice low but edged with steel. "I manage a financial firm," she said again. "The very same one you work for." Marcus paused, his brow twitching slightly. Then he asked, his tone now sharper. "What kind of financial firm?" Maya's hands tightened around the edge of the counter. She inhaled, slow and deep, grounding herself. This wasn't standard procedure. It wasn't a check for safety or fraud. This was something else. "I own this firm," she said clearly. "I created Thompson Union from scratch." A stillness followed. Even Eliza seemed to shift uneasily. Marcus stood frozen for a moment, taking in her words, as if they didn't align with what he wanted to believe. He wasn't verifying anything. He was challenging her, testing her, looking for a reason to withhold what was already hers. After a long silence, he glanced down at the form again, his eyes unreadable. "I see," he murmured. But Maya could tell. He didn't. Or maybe he refused to. "Is this a business account or—" A personal one. That was it. Her control was slipping. "It's clearly marked," she said, her voice almost trembling with restraint. "It's a personal account. The form is in front of you. What's the problem?" Eliza shuffled slightly, her gaze lowered. But Marcus ignored her. He scanned the form, his fingers hovering over each line like he was hoping to find a flaw. Maya knew better. There was no mistake. He wasn't searching for an error. He was searching for doubt, for an excuse, for a reason not to believe she was who she claimed to be, and Maya had had enough. She stood still, arms loosely crossed, eyes locked on Marcus. She wasn't going to retreat. Not in her own institution. This wasn't about a withdrawal anymore. It had turned into a challenge, one he didn't expect her to confront. Marcus looked up once more. "So just to confirm," he said slowly, "you're requesting $5,000 from your personal account?" His eyes scanned her face, watching, waiting, as if expecting her to slip. "Yes," Maya replied, her voice steady as stone. "You've seen the paperwork. Everything is clear. What exactly is the issue, Marcus?" Marcus didn't respond right away. Instead, he flipped the withdrawal form in his hands, like he expected to find a mistake hiding in plain sight. But there was none. There was no error, no red flag, nothing that justified the holdup. Still, the delay dragged on. Maya could feel her frustration creeping up, but she kept her expression still, her body composed. Finally, Marcus looked up. His face changed, just slightly. "I'm going to need you to confirm some extra details before we move forward with the withdrawal," he said. Maya blinked, clearly taken aback. "Extra details? I've already given you everything. My ID, the completed form, my account number. What more could you possibly need?" Marcus paused, as if unsure whether to ask what he was clearly planning to ask anyway. Then he spoke, and the question made something inside her snap. "Can you tell me the amount of your last deposit into this account?" Maya's jaw clenched. That wasn't normal protocol, not for this amount, not for this context. If she had been withdrawing something massive, perhaps. But $5,000? From a customer with decades of history here? "I don't have that number memorized," Maya replied, keeping her voice from shaking. "But you have my ID, you have my account, you could easily check, like you would for any other client." Marcus gave a small nod, but there was no acknowledgement in his eyes. It felt like a performance, like he was going through motions designed to wear her down. Maya could sense it now. The silence between them wasn't neutral. It was loaded. "We take security very seriously here," he said finally, his tone oddly rehearsed. "It's just a precaution." Maya's grip on the counter tightened. "A precaution?" she repeated, almost in disbelief. "What exactly are you implying, Marcus?" No reply. He simply reached for another clipboard from the desk, his hand calm, his face unreadable. "It's policy," he said flatly. "We need to confirm that you're truly the account holder before releasing the funds." Maya's mind was racing. She had stood in this branch 100 times. She had chosen its location, approved its design, hired its staff. There was no debate over who she was. And yet here she was, being asked to prove her own legitimacy. "Are you seriously telling me that my ID, my account details, and my entire history with this bank aren't enough?" Her voice was sharper now, and her calmness was wearing thin. "You want me to prove that I have the right to access my own money?" Marcus didn't react. It's procedure, he repeated. Colder this time, detached. Maya narrowed her eyes. She had tried to be patient, but now it was clear. This wasn't just about verification. It was about suspicion. It was about control. And, more than anything, it was about her. I don't believe this, she whispered, barely containing the disbelief in her voice. This isn't about protocol. It's about something else entirely. Marcus shifted slightly, a flicker of discomfort showing in his posture. But he didn't back off. He placed the clipboard back on the counter, sliding it toward her with a thin layer of forced courtesy. You can complete it again, if you prefer, he said, his voice too polished. It's just standard procedure. Maya didn't move. She didn't even glance at the clipboard. She stood her ground, unblinking, watching him with quiet intensity. This wasn't going to stop until someone admitted what was truly happening. Her patience had been drained, leaving only a cold, steady focus. The truth of it all hit her in full. This wasn't about rules. This wasn't about security. It was about something deeper, something that had nothing to do with banking protocols. Maya stood frozen, her gaze locked on Marcus. She felt the anger beneath her skin, hot and heavy, but she kept it contained. She wasn't going to fill out another form. She wasn't going to continue playing along. Not here. Not in her own institution. Marcus, she said, her voice calm but cutting. This is absurd. I've been with this bank since day one. I helped launch this branch, and now you're standing there, asking me to prove I belong. For the first time, his expression faltered. The polished detachment cracked. Just for a second, Maya could see it. The realization dawning that this wasn't a mistake. This was a miscalculation. You may want to take a second look, she said, her voice cool but firm, because I'm not just another account holder. Marcus didn't reply. He stood still, rooted in place. Then Maya reached into her handbag, her movements slow and deliberate. Without breaking eye contact, she pulled out her phone and tapped the screen to begin recording. The entire lobby fell into silence. That kind of stillness when everyone knows something serious is happening but no one dares to interrupt. You're denying me access to my account, Maya said, her voice loud enough to carry, but not raised. Even after I've provided valid identification, while others around me aren't being asked to do the same. Marcus's face turned pale. He looked stunned, like he hadn't expected her to take control. Maya shifted her phone slightly, now focusing on the security guard who had been silently standing a few steps away. And you, she said, her tone steady. Why exactly were you called over? The guard hesitated, glanced nervously at Marcus, then looked back at Maya. He didn't answer right away. Caught between loyalty and discomfort, Maya didn't wait. Answer me, she pressed. Why are you here? He shifted, his hands fidgeting, slightly. I'm just here to ensure everything goes smoothly, he finally said, his voice flat and uncertain. Smoothly, Maya repeated with disbelief in her tone. Or are you here to intimidate me, to remind me of my place? Marcus looked between Maya and the guard, his eyes darting in quiet panic. But Maya wasn't done, not even close. Then Maya lowered her voice, not to soften it, but to make sure the words carried through every corner of the room. You've made a serious mistake, Marcus, a very serious one. Marcus's lips pressed into a tight, controlled line. Miss Thompson, if you could just take a breath and remain calm. But Maya didn't let him finish. I am calm, she cut in, her voice sharp and icy. "But it's clear you've made up your mind. You've decided I don't belong here, and now I'm going to make sure everyone else knows it too." She turned slowly, scanning the lobby, meeting the eyes of every customer, every employee pretending not to listen. She could see it on their faces. They understood. This wasn't about a form. This wasn't about money. It was about something much deeper, and now it was out in the open. Realizing he was cornered, Marcus made one last move. He reached beneath the counter and pressed a silent button. Maya recognized it immediately. He was escalating, calling for backup. Moments later, a tall security guard entered the lobby, his face unreadable. One hand resting casually near his belt, ready, watching. But Maya didn't move, didn't flinch. She stood tall, eyes locked on Marcus. "You're really going to do this?" she asked, her voice calm despite the heat in the air. Marcus gave a small nod, but his confidence had cracked. "We're simply trying to maintain a secure, smooth experience for all our clients," he said, the words so polished they felt fake. Maya tilted her head. "A smooth experience? Is that what you call this?" She took a step forward. "Well, here's the truth, Marcus. I'm not leaving until you do your job and process my withdrawal, and if you think I'll stand here and let you treat me like a threat, you're wrong. Very wrong." The silence in the room was deafening. Maya stood unshaken, eyes steady, posture unyielding. Marcus looked increasingly uneasy. Even the security guard, still posted by the entrance, seemed unsure of how to proceed. Everyone in that room was watching her now, waiting, some frozen in place, some pretending not to care, but all listening. Maya inhaled deeply, then spoke again. Her words came clear, precise, undeniable. "Let me make this simple, Marcus. You are refusing to allow me to access funds from my account, even though I've given you my ID, my account number, and every form you've asked for, and now you've brought in security. As if I'm the problem. Why? Because I'm not in a suit? Because I don't look the way you expect your clients to look?" Marcus's professional mask slipped for a moment. He looked as though he wanted to say something, but Maya didn't. "Let him. No more excuses," she said, her tone cutting clean through the air. "This isn't about policy. It's about bias. You've already decided I don't belong here, and now it's too late for you to undo it." She lifted her phone again, this time aiming it directly at his face. "This is being documented, Marcus, and every person in this room is witnessing it. So, if you don't process my request, I will make sure this reaches the right people, and you won't be able to pretend it didn't happen." For a long, quiet beat, Marcus said nothing. He looked toward the guard, then toward Eliza, who stood frozen behind the counter, staring at the floor. Maya's words weren't just a confrontation. They were a spotlight on what no one else dared to name. She took one more step forward. "I helped build this bank, Marcus. This branch exists because of me. I approved your position. And now, you're standing there telling me you can't even authorize a simple withdrawal?" Marcus's face went pale as her words landed with full weight. Maya could see it, the panic surfacing, the grip on control slipping through his fingers. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Too late for excuses. Too late for damage control. Maya leaned slightly forward, her voice calm but cutting. "Let me introduce myself properly, Marcus." She reached for her ID on the counter, flipping it over slowly so the name printed on it could not be missed. "See this?" she said, tapping the card lightly against the surface. "This isn't just a customer ID. This is the founder and CEO of Thompson Union Bank." The room froze. Marcus's expression cracked wide open. The security guard straightened his posture. Eliza looked like she had seen a ghost. Customers around the lobby shifted awkwardly, realizing they had just witnessed far more than a banking error. Marcus reached for her ID, his hand trembling slightly, but he was no longer the one in charge. Maya had reclaimed control, and he wasn't ready for it. "I built this institution from nothing," she continued, her voice unwavering. "I signed the papers that paid for your job, Marcus. And today, I walked in like anyone else, to see if I'd be treated the way. We promised to treat every customer." She paused. "You failed that test. You humiliated me. You made assumptions. And now you've got a choice. Process this transaction, or face the consequences." Marcus's lips moved, but still, nothing. "Maya didn't need to wait. You had your chance," she said, stepping back. "Now you'll be explaining all of this to corporate." She turned her gaze to the guard. "And you," she said icily. "If a client isn't posing a threat, intimidation should never be your first response. Be more careful who you take orders from." The guard nodded slowly, his eyes downcast. He already knew there was no going back. Then Maya looked at Eliza. Her voice was softer but firm. "You saw my ID. You saw the account. And still, you chose to ignore me." Eliza's cheeks turned red. "I was just following protocol, ma'am," she mumbled. Maya stepped closer, her tone sharper now. "Protocol that only seems to apply to people who look like me?" Eliza looked down at her keyboard, her hands trembling. Maya took a breath. Letting the silence speak for her, she had said what needed to be said. She turned, heels tapping against the cold tile as she walked to the exit. Not a single word was spoken behind her, but the air was heavy, thick with consequences. As she stepped out the door, she knew this moment wouldn't be forgotten, and it wasn't. The next morning, Maya had already scheduled a leadership summit. Every branch manager was called in. Urgent reviews of customer experience were launched. Marcus was terminated. Mandatory bias training was rolled out across all locations, and a new accountability framework was put into motion. The effect was immediate. Employees became more self-aware. Clients noticed the difference, but Maya didn't stop there. She made it clear this wasn't a temporary shift. It was a reset, permanent. That day stayed with her, etched into memory, a reminder that real change doesn't come from corporate handbooks or mission statements. It happens when someone stands up, refuses to stay silent, and demands better. And Maya Thompson was exactly that.